So over the last 30 years working in elite sport, you always hope that you're going to be part of the edgy, innovative team that kind of moves the needle in performance from what we all understand to something that's kind of new and novel and is a little bit of a breakthrough. Sometimes it's not your team, sometimes it's another team. It's always a little bit dissatisfying to see that the Germans did something, or over in the UK they did something. And some of the advances that we see that are like big shifts is you'll see, like in cycling, all of a sudden there's access to wind tunnels. And it goes crazy. All of a sudden the times for a 40K time trial drop substantially. All of a sudden the world records just plummet for how far they ride in an hour. It's like an aerodynamic breakthrough. Everybody was riding one way and the wind tunnel comes, there's new positions, and now for the same power, they just go faster. In environmental physiology, I think we saw a really big transition with altitude training. You know, there was a time where, hey, you go to the mountains, altitude is fun, people maybe talked about it. The Olympic Games in Mexico made everybody think about altitude a bit. But it started to become a thing, and we were studying it, and you could go to altitude and literally watch hemoglobin mass, which carries oxygen to the muscles. You could see it go up like 4 or 5%, and you could see the oxygen uptake go up, and you could see this newfound capacity in athletes. And it was like, if you weren't using altitude, you weren't in the game. When it comes to thermoregulation, it's interesting to consider active cooling strategies as one of those kind of monumental breakthroughs. And I think the first place to go is, oh yes, active cooling, like CoolMitt, or pre-cooling if you have access to cold water plunges. That's a necessity now if you're going to try to compete at the highest level in hot conditions. But I think what people don't know is that the body gets really, really hot even in kind of normal conditions. It doesn't have to be extremely hot for an athlete to benefit from active cooling strategies. So with devices like CoolMitt and active cooling strategies, I think the sports science community is now starting to harness these techniques, and we're seeing another breakthrough in how athletes are trying to prepare themselves and get the most out of themselves in a safe way in both hot conditions and maybe in thermally challenging conditions that are challenging because of how hard they're pushing themselves for so long, not just challenging because of how hot the environment is they're competing in.